Hi, everybody. Oh, it's good to see you, to be together. And I just noticed myself shifting gear and yeah, letting the out breath be long as I do that. Sighing, softening. Not always easy to shift gear. Maybe there's resistance, weariness, any manner of challenge. And our sigh just acknowledges this. Maybe a hand on the chest or the belly. So yeah, we're shifting gear and it may not be easy. But no feeling has to be a problem. No feeling has to be got rid of. There's plenty of space for all feelings to be felt fully. There's endless space in the field of awareness. And as I say the word field, I think of this week's Torah portion, Chaye Sarah, Vayetze Yitzchak lasuach basadeh. And Isaac went out into the field, lasuach, to meditate. And let's follow his example. This time last week, I offered some practices that helped me to find stability, especially in times of great difficulty as these. And I said that this Monday I would offer some others, which I will. Last week, we focused on plugging into the sensory domains of experience, sights and sounds and contact, smells and tastes. So we'll begin here again, such a helpful place to begin. And then from within the practice, I'll introduce two new possibilities. One is tuning into a sense of care, kindness. And the other is allowing yourself not to know. Both of these support me too. I invite you to begin, though, by just noticing three things in your sensory environment which feel available as resting places for the attention. You're noticing a piece of artwork up to my right, noticing the contact of my bottom on the cushion, the sit bones. I'm noticing the whir of my computer. So any senses that are with you right now, I invite you to pause with each one in turn. Name it, whispering inwardly what it is, and then receiving it. Three different sensory experiences that you're noticing right here, right now. If the first two are relatively unpleasant to you, see if you can pick one that's pleasant or neutral as your third. It may not be what is loudest in your experience. Yitzchak, Isaac lifts up his eyes to see Rivka approaching. Sometimes we have to lift up our eyes, deliberately draw them away from what tugs at us in order to see what is beautiful, what is coming our way, what is a source of love and stability. I invite you now to choose one, maybe one of the three that you were just attending to. Maybe another focus, the hands or the feet, the breath or the sounds around you. Just choosing one region of your immediate experience and observing it. Giving your eyes, your inner eyes, this way. And allowing it to be as it is. Not having to make anything happen. Just choosing where to look. Allowing the background of awareness to be wide. You don't have to force other things out of your experience. And instead, just within this whole, exercising the power that you have to choose where to give attention. To lift up your eyes and choose where to direct them. So whatever you're choosing to turn towards, observing and allowing. Interested and undemanding. Attentive without interfering as best you can. Maybe at times you notice that there is a sense of care intrinsic to this practice. In the very act of showing up here, moment after moment, there's the sense that it may serve in some way, or the hope, the prayer that it may serve. Exercising this possibility that we don't have to give attention always to what is loudest within, to what pulls the most strongly. We can let it be, leave it where it is, not fight it, and choose to look elsewhere. Somewhere other than what feels most urgent. Not because we don't care, but because we do. We turn somewhere supportive, somewhere quieter maybe, somewhere that helps us to draw right here, right now, from the well of stability, of presence, of connection. To draw these healing and clarifying waters up from the depths into the world. just as Rivka, just as Rebecca draws from the well in the Torah this week. Perhaps you feel the care in choosing to give attention to something in your immediate experience, which is nourishing, hydrating, to focus on, to keep coming back to each time we drift, which of course we do. So just attending, observing and allowing is infused with care. Times we sense this care in the very act of observing and allowing. And at times it may help to bring to mind intentionally a source of care, a person or animal or being of any sort from whom you've received kindness and care. Maybe someone you know well, maybe someone you only met once, whose name you never knew, who in some way went out their way for you, let you pass, told you what you needed to know, gave you what you'd lost. Sometimes we draw from the well through our own direct sensory experience. And sometimes we do so with the help of another whose presence supports us. Just as this week, Eliezer and his camels receive what they need through the presence of Rebecca. She draws from the well for them. So maybe someone comes to mind for you now and is just here by your side or in the background, warming up the texture of your immediate experience, encouraging you that, yes, it's okay to just keep giving attention to the hands or the feet or the breath, or wherever you're choosing to orient to right here and now. They're here in the background, supporting this practice, your freedom to engage it. I like to imagine this person or being that is a source of care behind me and slightly above, pouring down their kindness onto me, affirming that yes, there's wisdom in relating in this way. We're really giving ourselves the time and the space that we need to find and nurture safety, groundedness. Whoever it may be that comes to mind for you in this regard, that tenderizes, softens, heartens the space, ensouls it. you can just keep bringing them back again and again, noticing and absorbing how the texture of things changes when they come along. Inviting body and heart and mind to soak in this, in the care that's woven into their presence. Really letting yourself absorb it. Not grabbing at it, but not turning away either. Soaking it in. The warmth, the love, the kindness emanating from this source, whoever that may be for you. The body like a sponge, receiving, slowly permeating. Times, as we practice, as we live, we may find that we don't know what to do. We wake up, we come to, we wonder where we've been or how to begin again. What if we meet these moments, which for me are very, very frequent, with these same senses of allowing and care? Perhaps whoever came to mind as a source of kindness continues to encourage you now, saying that it's okay not to know right away, to let yourself be here where you are, without having to say what it is, without having to hasten or force yourself to somewhere higher or clearer or more tangible. Maybe you glimpse the deep peace and kindness in allowing yourself not to have to know too quickly. A kind of inner wisdom that intuits that maybe we don't have to rush onwards, rush to the answer, scramble to wrap our heads around and explain it all. Maybe if we wait, if we hang out in the field as Yitzchak does, then clarity comes in its own time. what we need arrives, as Rivka does for him. So in the meantime, just attending to wherever it's helpful for you to attend to. Hands, feet, source of care. Whatever helps you just to be here. Not to have to rush on. Not to have to make it different too quickly. We receive the channel of love and kindness and deep allowing. At times we're moved to offer it onwards, to extend it. I'll offer a prayer, and maybe you have certain people in mind, gesturing to them, holding them here with you, praying that they will receive the fruits of your practice without having to know quite how this may or may not happen. I pray that all the hostages return home safely, that the wounded be healed and the mourners find comfort, that everyone everywhere receives what they need. That we are each able to touch some measure of stability and clarity in the midst of pain and loss. And there will be peace. Bimhera v'yameinu, speedily and in our days.
Amen. Amen. Zac, thank you so much for easing us so beautifully into this week of practice together. We're so grateful to you for this. And friends, ask you to please stay present as we close our practice, seal it with an opportunity for those who are in mourning, observing yard site, or whose custom it is to join in the Kaddish can do so. And if are not reciting Kaddish to please stay present and offer your compassionate support for those who are. Thanks to Jet for sharing the words of the Mourner's Kaddish on the screen. And if you're reciting, I invite you to join me by rising in body or in spirit to recite it together. And you can put the name or names of those you're honoring in the chat either now or after we recite Kaddish. And you can unmute at this time. Yit Gadal, Rabba Shemin Rabba, Amad Yitzhak, Yamit Malkutei, V'chaye Chom, Yomei Chom, V'chaye Dekol Beit Yisrael, Adala V'Yisrael Hariv, Amru, Amen. Yishmei Rabba Mevarach, Adam Lamed Maya,
Yishmei Rabba Mevorach,
Ha'ar,
Barach
Dar,
Yishmael,
Kalash, V'Yidkol,
Vasevi Tadar
Elam,
Chade,
Kircha, V'Shirat,
Shnei Dikutsha Brichu,
B'chata, V'nechamachta, V'Amad,
V'Shirata,
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 V'Chaya, V'Chaim Aleinu,
V'Chaim Aleinu, V'Shanara,
Shalom, Shalom,
V'Yim Aleinu, V'Chol Yisrael V'Yu Amen. Shalom, Ma'avu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu V'Chol Yisrael V'Kol Yoshvei Tevel V'Imru Amen.
Amen. Zichronam Livracha, may all who call to mind and hold in our hearts be for a blessing on this, the Shloshim of those who perished on October 7th. Friends, if you're leaving us now, hope you'll join us for any or all of our sessions this week. Tomorrow will be led and practiced by Rabbi Jenny Solomon. On Wednesday, Rabbi Sarah Brandes will be joining us from Hanaton community in the north of Israel. Sarah runs a program there called The Awakened Body. On Thursday, we'll welcome back Yiska Smith, who will lead us from Jerusalem. And on Friday, Janet Sadaka of lead us. It's not Rosh Chodesh yet, Kislev, that will be early the following week, but Jenna will lead us in a sit to take us into Shabbat together on a theme that will help us make the bridge from Cheshvan from this month into Kislev. Thanks so much to our teacher today, Zac Newman of Hamakom, and to Jet Bachman, who's holding our text space. And Jet, if you can share, if you have the link to those who might be interested in signing up for Hamakom's mailing list to be aware of the wonderful programs that they offer there in the UK and beyond. We're always very happy to spread word about other opportunities for practice and deeply grateful for these relationships that we've been able to form with sibling organizations like Hamakom. And as always, you're invited to stay on. You can continue to sit with this beautiful teaching and practice that Zac offered, or you can share a question or just share reflections on your experience with our sit today. I'll keep an eye out for questions. If it is a question, please preface it by writing question in all caps. Zac, was really beautiful. I'm very grateful to you. And so many facets of the teaching packed into a very short practice, really. And I want to pick up a few of them. One was, at some point, you were talking about serving. I don't know if you remember that, but and it was helpful to me because the beginning of the teaching and practice, for me, I guess I heard it as focusing on receiving from the wells, drawing from the wells, both myself drawing up, and also then being aware of others who are assisting, just like Rebecca was drawing for Eliezer and his camels. But at some point, you framed it as service. And I was interested in that. I was interested in thinking about what we do here as this this sacred pause that we build in to cultivate awareness as a form of service. In Hebrew, the word is avodah, which technically in modern Hebrew means labor, but in our tradition connotes service, worship, service, sacred service, really, right? So I wanted to just invite you to see if I was wondering what you meant by that, and how you think about how we might frame what we're doing as a form of service, as opposed to what we might think, which is I'm replenishing my well, my inner, replenishing myself now, but I'm receiving, as opposed to doing something actively in the world.
Mm. I think a reflection comes to me at two different levels. One is on a kind of conventional level. We think that we're separate. And so when I take time to do something for myself, then the voices come, right? What right do you have to do this when these things are happening that are urgent and require your attention and energy? It's really hard. It's like we're searching for some way of giving ourselves what we need, but we think we're not allowed to. We think that in giving ourselves what we need, we're neglecting others. And in the conventional setup of things, it's like, well, if I'm separate from you, then if I'm doing what's for me, then I'm not doing what's for you.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a kind of calculus, like, okay, I'll do this for myself.
Right.
But it actually really helps me to know that what benefits me will also radiate out and benefit you as well. Because when I'm more steady, more clear, more open, more discerning, I am then able to go and offer that to the world. And then I feel like there's a deeper mystical level, which in a sense isn't mystical at all. It's just available to us if we practice and see clearly that the boundaries between what I call me and what I call out there are imposed. And if I stop putting them there, then, well, to be honest, the world around me still reminds me of them. It's not as easy as that. But actually, it's just one big continuum.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever really brings nourishment and stability, whatever brings any blessed quality into my being, it's not actually bringing it into my being, it's just bringing it into the world.
Right.
And so at this subtler level, there's just really not a meaningful distinction between what really serves me and what really serves the world. I am the world, I'm part of it, I'm completely woven into it.
Mm-hmm.
So the question kind of falls away.
Right. That's a fantastic answer, I would say. I'm so glad I asked you that question. And at the same time, there is a danger there that I don't want to shy away from. That sense of what serves me serves everybody, right? But also that only works if, in fact, as you say, we're able to kind of dissolve the sense of self and the ego, and soften the ego enough to really experience ourselves as part of this divine economy of interrelatedness, so that there is no me and you, there is no separation. Like that metaphor of putting on the oxygen mask first so that you are available to put the oxygen mask on others, that holds, that's true. But you were suggesting we can understand it that way. We're taking time, this is like me time so that I can be available for others. That works, that's good. But there's this other level of, I'm taking time here to kind of remember that distinction is is illusory, I guess, on some level, in the spiritual, mystical dimension, as you were describing, right? Which then ties into where you ended up with, and I just want to invite you to say a little bit more, because I was so intrigued by Isaac going out into the field. Lasuach basadeh is the phrase that, you brought in to, which is understood as to meditate, to be receptive, I guess, in that way. Can you say a little bit more about that, like about this idea of allowing, of being in a mode of allowing, and how that's part of the practice?
I see in the chat a question about not knowing, and they're kind of coming together for me.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Field, as I imagine Yitzchak in the field, to my mind, one of, if not the first reference to contemplative practice in the Torah. The field is open, right? The field is not this built up space where it's like, oh, there you have this person's home, there you have that person's home, these discrete, separate entities, right? Coming into the field is coming into an expanse.
Mm-hmm. It's like the Midbar, it's like the wilderness. It's another metaphor for the same thing, open space.
Right. And when I even just say to myself, I don't know, this is one of my ways that I drop into this practice, just to say, I don't know. I kind of feel an opening up. And sometimes it's kind of shaky. It's like, it's pretty exposing and vulnerable to be in the field. Like, we want to put the walls up. We want to say where we are. We want to get it.
Mm-hmm.
I really honor that. Those difficulties, I really feel them in myself. And experience suggests to me that I need to be open in order to receive the divine gifts which are always pouring down. That if I build this entity, this certainty around myself, then I also cut myself off from the shefa, from the flow. And so it's double-edged. Coming into the field is like, it's scary. And we need to bring with us our practices that help us to find steadiness in the midst. The feet, the hands, the senses. Anything that lets us hang out in the field long enough without running back indoors,
mm-hmm.
so that we can be there when Rivka comes along, when on the horizon, the train of camels appears, and the clarity that we're yearning for starts to come into view. Because actually, to connect it to the wilderness, such a powerful image for me as well. It's really significant for me that we don't come out of Egypt and straight into Eretz Yisrael. We don't come out of pain and straight into fulfillment and healing. There's this midbar, this challenge first.
Right.
We step into the field and it's not immediately validated. I mean, sometimes it is, but most of the time, it's like, oh, I don't know. And it's not like immediate wave of relief and loveliness. It's like, I don't know. It doesn't feel great. And we have to find some way of being in the wilderness for a while before we realize, like, oh, this is actually the promised land.
And it's, as you're pointing out, I mean, it's really kind of fundamental to the story that wisdom arises. That's the place where wisdom arises. It arises only in the midbar. It arises in the field, but with that solidity that you're describing of being oriented. We just have a couple of minutes, thanks to folks who are some wonderful comments in the And also, Zac, quite a bit of appreciation for this teaching today, which I'm glad to see. I hope you can take that in. People are really, really grateful to you for this. Just have a couple of minutes, but I want to ask you, just in terms of applying it to the, the matzab, the current situation in which we're in, and of course, you're in the UK, and I imagine feeling this fairly acutely as well, that being in that place of not knowing, being in the field, being in this place of, of being willing to pause before knowing what to say or how to respond. How are you doing with that yourself these days? That's the real question that's on everyone's minds. So how are you managing? Do you find?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's the truth, how am I managing? How am I doing? A certain member of my family, this is just a long-standing thing, they would often say to me, "How are you?" And I would pause, and they'd say, "What's the matter?" And I'd be like, no, I'm just not sure. I'm just kind of waiting and seeing how am I actually doing?
Mm-hmm.
But right now that is a more acute kind of not sure. There's a lot of really, really difficult feelings passing through me.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's really not okay. And my practice is, as best I can, not to have to make sense of it all too quickly, not to have to, moment by moment, as the situation constantly changes, to keep updating my explanation to myself of
Mm-hmm.
what has happened, what I think about what's happened, what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
To let that kind of emerge and unfold in its own time. I'm doing my best, I'm doing my best, getting it wrong, getting it right, round and round, feeling a lot of different things, and remembering as often as I can the big space in which it all takes place. Letting myself just fall back into that. I'm praying for peace.
Amen. Thank you for all of that, Zac. It's really, really such a blessing for us to spend time in the field with you today. Really appreciate it. Friends, so we're a little bit over. We'll end here. Grateful to all of you for being here, as always. Hope you'll join us the rest of the week. Just a reminder, by the way, I didn't mention that next week, our friend Rabbi Daniel Raphael Silverstein will be leading 4 days, Monday through Thursday, a series on the Shema, leading us from Israel, and very much something to look forward to. So please be mindful of that. Much gratitude to you, Zac, and to Jet Bachman for holding our space, to each of you for being here, and many blessings, everyone.